The story begins with our main hero, Cross, quietly questioning why he even exists in the first place. And honestly, yeah, that is definitely not the kind of thought a normal person starts the day with. Then, little by little, he introduces his team, explaining that Sophia is a witch capable of using every type of magic. Medil is a priest who can heal any wound. Mary is a thief who can avoid any trap. And Claude is the strongest warrior in history. While Cross himself sadly believes he has absolutely nothing worthy of a hero's party. According to him, everyone around him has talent, abilities, and value, but all he does is drag the others down like some kind of burden. And eventually his frustration boils over as he starts wondering why everyone keeps doting on him so much, despite him being useless in his own eyes. Meanwhile, Cross is lying with his head resting on Medil's lap, as she gently asks if he feels comfortable and even shyly tells him he can touch the bed if he wants, while Mary instantly offers to give him a massage, and Sophia happily hands him a special drink she made to ease his pain. Cross immediately gets irritated and tells everyone to stop messing around with him, before reminding them that Claude is still scouting the area and things could get dangerous if they keep playing around like this. Right then, Claude suddenly returns and asks what everyone is doing, only for Cross to casually admit he was the one saying all that. But then Claude confidently declares that he will personally heal Cross himself, leaving Cross staring at him in complete confusion. After that, Cross starts thinking deeply to himself, realizing that he only defeated around 50 monsters today, while the others each took down nearly 150, so naturally he cannot understand why everyone keeps worrying about him this much. The party simply responds by saying he is a genuinely good person, but Cross awkwardly brushes it off and thinks people only say things like that to someone who has no real special qualities. Oof, yeah, that insecurity hits hard. Still, Cross emotionally decides that he will start working even harder from now on, and before night falls, he volunteers to gather supplies for dinner. Mary immediately insists on coming along with him, but Cross reassures everyone that he can handle it himself, and tells them to rest instead, so eventually he leaves alone while the entire party suddenly becomes silent the moment he walks away. Then Claude quietly asks if everyone noticed how Cross looked earlier, and immediately the whole group starts blushing while talking about how adorable he was. Mary says Cross looked completely exhausted but still stayed kind to everyone. Sophia points out how red his face became earlier and how cute he looked because of it. Claude admits Cross looked incredibly cool and brave while fighting, and Medil shyly reveals that she once went on an inspection mission alone with Cross where she even managed to place her arm over him, before blushing even harder while remembering how Cross personally handed her a drink himself. Then another team member proudly mentions getting a high five from Cross once, and at that point the entire group practically dies from embarrassment because, seriously, how is this not a full-blown crush at this point? Meanwhile, far away from them, Cross notices a sudden explosion in the distance and casually assumes the others must be training since everyone seems unusually energetic today. As he keeps walking, however, he starts thinking about how insanely powerful the Demon King's forces were during today's battle and realizes his party must actually be completely exhausted, which motivates him even more as he tells himself it is time to work harder. The scene then shifts to the entire party sitting around a fire when one member suddenly nervously points out that Cross is taking way too long and wonders if he has been kidnapped, causing the other three to panic almost instantly. Mary even seriously believes it could happen because Cross is just that adorable, while Sophia immediately suggests they should hurry and search for him before casually proposing they burn down the forest to find him faster. Like, what kind of rescue plan is that? Thankfully, before things get any crazier, Cross's voice suddenly echoes nearby as he apologizes for being late, and Medil instantly asks where he has been. Cross calmly explains that he was searching around for ingredients so he could prepare a feast for everyone, and moments later he returns carrying a massive amount of food supplies, leaving the entire party completely shocked. Claude becomes emotional and dramatically claims that Cross's kindness alone has already filled his stomach, after which everyone excitedly gathers together for dinner, while Cross quietly worries to himself that he probably made everyone anxious again. Soon dinner is finally prepared, and the reactions become even more intense as Mary immediately says, "Cross's cooking tastes incredible." Medea claims it is even better than royal court cuisine, and Sophia sadly admits she cannot imagine eating food made by anyone else ever again, while wondering what she will even do once this journey finally ends. Cross simply smiles and tells everyone they are exaggerating, before promising that he will continue cooking for them even after the adventure is over. While Claude proudly declares that if Cross cooks it, he would even eat poisonous mushrooms like they are his favorite meal. Cross instantly panics and asks why he is eating mushrooms that were literally just picked up moments ago. Afterward, Cross reminds everyone that they need to wake up early tomorrow, so they should finally get some sleep. And as the night settles in, Mary quietly thinks about how unbelievably kind Cross truly is, and how much he constantly does for everyone around him. Claude notices Cross drinking a little too much and questions him about it. Medea continues thinking about Cross even in her sleep. Sophia literally dreams about him, and meanwhile our hero spends the middle of the night alone in the forest still training by himself. Cross continues pushing his body harder and harder while thinking that he needs to become faster and stronger because cooking alone will never be enough for him. And deep down, he refuses to stay useless forever. He absolutely cannot accept living like that anymore, so finally Cross raises his sword toward the sky and passionately declares that he wants to stand beside everyone and fight together with them. And this time, no matter what happens, he swears he will never give up on that dream again. Now the scene shifts again, and Claude is quietly sitting there in silence before eventually asking Mary how Cross is doing, to which Mary casually replies that Cross is training again like always, while Medea adds that he will probably keep pushing himself until morning comes, and Sophia worriedly points out that he is definitely going to return completely exhausted again this time. Then Claude suddenly says that if Cross ever admitted something was too difficult for him, they would have abandoned this world long ago. But Mary immediately smiles and says Cross would never say something like that, no matter how hard things become. And hearing that, Claude quietly smiles too, before declaring that this is exactly why they will protect Cross even if it costs them their lives. The scene then changes as Cross explains that their journey continues smoothly after that without any further major danger, while his team protects villages from swarms of monsters, destroys the Demon King's strongholds, and slowly pushes humanity closer and closer toward victory. Eventually, Cross and his party finally stand before one of the four heavenly kings, who proudly introduces himself before the group defeats him as well, causing Mary to excitedly celebrate that all four heavenly kings have finally been destroyed, while Claude emotionally tells Cross that they have truly made it this far, and now the only enemy left is the Demon King himself. Cross then happily realizes that they are finally close to creating a world where travelers no longer have to fear monsters anymore. After that, the scene shifts once again, as Cross and the others return to the kingdom, where crowds of people loudly cheer for the heroes finally coming back to the city, while songs of celebration echo everywhere. The king of the kingdom warmly praises Hero Cross and welcomes the party back, while Claude respectfully bows and thanks the king for the warm welcome, only for the king to casually tell him there is no need to act so formal, and that everyone should relax because they have traveled a long way. Claude then immediately declares that as soon as the party is ready, they will head out to defeat the Demon King, causing the king to promise that the kingdom will provide them with everything they need and urges them to rest until preparations are complete, because the hero's party must be exhausted. However, the king's gaze suddenly lands on Cross as he comments that Cross seems to be carrying quite a heavy burden, and at that moment the people around them begin staring at Cross with disgust while whispering cruel comments about him. Some call him completely useless and say someone like him disappearing would not matter at all, while others wonder how a person like him even managed to stay with the hero party in the first place. Hearing all of this, Cross quietly lowers his head and sadly realizes that even in this country, things are exactly the same for him. Instantly, Claude and the others become furious, but before things escalate, Cross quickly calms everyone down and stops Claude by grabbing his hand and asking him to wait until they leave. The scene then shifts again, as the group talks about finally wiping out the Demon King's kingdom, though Cross jokingly tells them not to say it so casually, like they are simply going out for drinks. Still, Cross quietly explains that if they let every little insult control them, those insults will never truly end, though he also admits that the people criticizing him were not entirely wrong either. Claude immediately rejects that idea and emotionally says that everything only became possible because Cross was by their side, explaining that he himself could only become a hero because of Cross, and that the entire group was only able to become a true hero party thanks to him. Hearing that suddenly leaves Cross blushing in embarrassment, as he starts wondering if maybe there really is something only he can do after all. Then Medea softly reflects on how long this journey has been, and mentions that they have been traveling together for almost an entire year, while Mary laughs and says it somehow feels like the whole adventure ended in just a single moment. Cross then quietly realizes that their journey is finally reaching its end, And soon the scene changes again as the hero party stands before the Demon King's castle itself. Everyone stares ahead while realizing they have finally arrived. Then Cross asks Claude if he will become king once he returns to the kingdom, and afterward he curiously asks everyone else what they plan to do after everything is over. Medivh says she might become a sister at a church. Sophia says she wants to continue researching magic together with Cross, and Mary says she will probably return to the Thieves Guild. Hearing all of this completely shocks Cross because apparently he seriously thought everyone wanted to marry Claude instead. Yeah, poor guy has absolutely no idea what is happening around him. Claude then asks Cross what he personally wants to do after returning home, and Cross happily says there are many things he wants to try, like traveling peacefully without worries, or maybe even opening a diner someday. Then he casually mentions that he might get married too, and the moment those words leave his mouth, the entire hero party looks like their souls just shattered into pieces. Like seriously, the emotional damage is insane. Claude suddenly grabs Cross and suggests they should go back and drink together until morning. Just the two of them, which Cross happily agrees sounds amazing, while the other three immediately insist on joining too. Cross then excitedly suggests they throw a huge party all night after everything is over. And with renewed determination, the heroes decide that in that case they should hurry up and defeat the Demon King first. Right then, the castle doors slowly open as the Demon King welcomes them and reveals that he has already heard about the heroes slaughtering all of his subordinates. Claude confidently responds that the Demon King will die next, but then the Demon King suddenly rises to his feet and commands all the heroes to come at him together. Immediately, Claude charges forward first and swings his sword, but the Demon King effortlessly blocks the attack before counterattacking and injuring Claude. Then Sophia unleashes a magical blast toward the Demon King, while Mary quickly rushes in and attacks with her daggers, and Medivh immediately tells Sophia to strike again. Another magical attack crashes into the Demon King while Claude attacks from below at the same time, and finally a direct hit lands on the Demon King's head. Cross watches in complete shock as the Demon King collapses onto the ground, and Claude happily tells Cross that it is finally over. Right after that, Mary runs over to Cross and proudly asks him to praise her because she tried her best during the fight. But at that exact moment, Cross suddenly notices a strange demonic symbol nearby and instantly realizes the truth about everything. Then, without warning, something violently bursts out from inside Cross's body, badly injuring him as he realizes with complete certainty that his true purpose was always meant for this exact moment. Suddenly, the Demon King rises again and declares that humans have interfered once more, but the cycle of hatred will never end. Claude and the others instantly panic, desperately shouting Cross's name while Medivh rushes forward and tries to heal him, only to suddenly realize in horror that the Demon King's curse is interfering with her healing magic and preventing it from working at all. Hearing that immediately terrifies Sophia and Mary as well, while Claude breaks down and desperately asks why Cross stepped forward to protect someone like him. Cross weakly calls Claude's name in return, and Claude tearfully admits that he feels like he will never be able to achieve anything anymore, because he cannot bear living in a world without Cross in it. Hearing those words causes tears to slowly fall from Cross's eyes as he emotionally realizes that if everyone is crying for him like this, then maybe he really was a lucky person after all. Cross then quietly wishes he could have helped everyone even more before his arm slowly falls lifelessly to the ground. Then, in his fading thoughts, Cross realizes that Cross has died. But suddenly, Cross wakes up again. Tiny glowing dots appear before his eyes, and as he slowly looks around, he sees countless demons kneeling before him and apologizing to him. They explain that because of the previous Demon King's curse, Cross has now reincarnated as a monster himself, and from this point onward, he will live inside the demon realm as a demon. Hearing all of that leaves Cross completely terrified and unable to process what just happened. Now Cross is completely stunned because he cannot understand how he transforms from a hero into a monster in the first place. And honestly, yeah, anyone would be losing their mind right now. He keeps looking around in confusion while wondering where exactly he even is and what is happening anymore because, according to him, they already defeated the Demon King, and after that he clearly remembers dying, so why are monsters suddenly bowing before him like this? Cross is still panicking when another thought immediately hits him, much harder than everything else, and he suddenly starts worrying about whether Claude and the others are safe or not. At the same time, he realizes he has absolutely no information about his current situation, which only makes everything feel even more dangerous. Then suddenly, a voice politely introduces itself, and a girl named Aura says she is happy to finally meet him, and tells him he can simply call her Aura. The moment Cross sees her, he becomes shocked because she looks completely human. But then Aura calmly reveals that she is actually the current Demon King, instantly leaving Cross speechless again. She quickly reassures him that she has no intention of harming him, but Cross immediately becomes confused when she starts referring to him with strange titles and asks who exactly this Saji-sama person is supposed to be, because he believes she clearly has the wrong person. Aura then looks at him in confusion and asks if his name is not Cross, before proudly calling him the Rainbow Sage from the Hero Party. Hearing such an absurdly overpowered title leaves Cross internally screaming because, seriously, where are these names even coming from? Aura then explains that he is known as the mediator and harmonizer of the Hero Party, the man who helped defeat the Demon King despite not having any special powers of his own. Cross immediately rejects that description and insists he was nothing more than dead weight the entire time, while also realizing that misunderstanding after misunderstanding just keeps piling up on top of each other. More importantly, though, he begs Aura to explain the current situation properly. Aura then reveals that the previous Demon King attempted to reincarnate the hero as a demon in order to control him, but because Cross sacrificed himself protecting the hero, the plan failed halfway through and Cross himself ended up reincarnating instead. The moment she says this, Aura quickly bows her head and apologizes because the entire situation happened due to mistaken identity. Afterward, she hands Cross a mirror and gently tells him that looking at his reflection should explain everything. Cross quietly thanks her while thinking about how badly he wants to return to everyone else. But the second he sees his reflection in the mirror, he freezes in shock because the person staring back at him is actually himself. Even Aura looks surprised by his reaction, but then Cross suddenly notices the horns on his head and casually comments that he honestly looks way cooler now than before. Yeah, this man processes trauma in the weirdest possible way. Then Cross curiously asks if monsters actually consider his appearance ugly, only for Aura to blush while quietly admitting that she personally thinks his face looks extremely handsome. After that, Aura explains that Cross is now reincarnated as a demon, a species considered humanity's enemy, but Cross casually responds that he never really held any grudge against demons in the first place. Aura becomes emotional and says she would even be willing to die for him because the situation is that serious, but Cross immediately questions why he would ever kill her when she has not done anything wrong at all. Hearing that leaves Aura quietly impressed, as she says this response is exactly what she expected from him. Then Aura reveals something even more shocking by explaining that 10 entire years have already passed since Cross's death, which naturally leaves him horrified because that's definitely not the kind of information someone casually drops into a conversation. Cross nervously asks how old he even is now, and Aura calmly responds that technically he is 0 years old since this is his new life. The moment Cross hears that, his thoughts immediately jump toward Claude and the others. But before he can continue, Aura quickly changes the topic and suggests they eat first. Soon, the scene shifts to a massive dining table where Aura and Cross sit together surrounded by food, and Cross immediately realizes this is Monster Kingdom cuisine. Aura happily tells him that this is his first meal since being reborn, so he should properly enjoy it. And the second Cross takes a bite, he completely freezes in shock before declaring that everything he ate before this moment suddenly feels fake in comparison. In fact, he becomes so overwhelmed by how delicious the food is that he actually says he is glad he reincarnates as a demon. Then Cross excitedly grabs a piece of meat while wondering how it is so unbelievably soft and asks how the sauce is made, because now he desperately wants to learn how to cook it himself. Aura smiles happily after seeing him enjoy the food and explains that compared to demon cuisine, human food feels extremely rough and simple. While eating, however, Cross quietly admits that he wishes Claude and the others could taste this food too, and Aura casually says she can have another plate prepared if he wants. Cross immediately agrees while internally realizing something important for the very first time. The demons never truly lost to humanity at all, because the hero only defeated the Demon King himself. After that, the scene shifts again as Cross stands on a balcony overlooking the enormous demon city below him, and he becomes shocked after realizing the city is even larger than the human capital. Then another thought suddenly hits him, as he nervously wonders if he is now supposed to fight humans as a demon too. When he asks Aura directly, she calmly reassures him that he will never need to do that, because her true dream is actually to create peaceful trade relations between humans and monsters. Aura then reveals that she wants to build a world where humans and demons no longer fight each other anymore, And hearing this completely stuns Cross because this peaceful future is the exact dream his entire party always wished for together. At that moment, Cross realizes there may still be something meaningful he can do after all. So he calls Aura's name and passionately asks her to let him help make her incredible dream come true. Hearing those words leaves Aura completely speechless because apparently nobody has ever said something like that to her before, and she emotionally asks Cross to lend her his strength. Then the scene shifts again as Claude, Medela, Sophia, and Mary all arrive together at Cross's grave, where the atmosphere instantly becomes painfully heavy. Claude quietly places a massive bouquet of flowers in front of the grave before sadly revealing that it has already been 10 years and 184 days since Cross died. Medela apologizes because she has only managed to visit once every 3 days due to how emotionally difficult everything still feels for her. While Sophia quietly mentions how long it has been since all of them gathered together and wishes Cross is happy wherever he is now. Mary then remembers how much she misses their journey together, and especially Cross's cooking, leaving everyone visibly heartbroken. Claude eventually lowers his head and asks why Cross had to leave them behind like this, before revealing that he wants to report something important to him. Claude sadly admits that he knows Cross never wanted this outcome, but despite that, they can no longer forgive the demons anymore, and plan to wipe out every last one of them. Then the four members of the hero party leave the grave, consumed by anger while declaring that in a world where Cross can finally be protected, demons no longer deserve a place to exist. And just like that, a massive war between humans and demons finally begins. Now Cross keeps thinking about what he can actually do to bring peace to the world because, according to him, he still barely knows anything about demons yet. So before changing anything, he first needs to truly understand them. After that, Cross starts meeting the demons one by one, but every single one of them becomes completely obsessed with him and keeps calling him Saj-sama, leaving Cross internally panicking because he genuinely cannot process anything they are saying anymore. Eventually, he sits down on his bed and starts wondering how any of this is even possible because, in his own eyes, there is absolutely no way he could ever be some legendary sage. In fact, he thinks he is more of an idiot than anything else and cannot even live up to the expectations people already have for him. Then Cross starts wondering what a sage even means in the first place because there are still way too many things he wants to understand. Right after that, he suddenly asks Aura what exactly his race even is, and Aura explains that he belongs to a race called Necronia, a species born from a mixture between the dead and demons. Hearing that instantly shocks Cross because the idea of being dead while still alive sounds absolutely insane. But Aura calmly explains that there are many different types of Necronia, and that Cross belongs to the category revived through magical power. However, Aura quickly warns him that he is only a mixed breed and not immortal, so he should never push himself too far, which immediately makes Cross panic because he thinks his biggest advantage just disappeared. Aura then reassures him by explaining that his race possesses regenerative abilities, and hearing that makes Cross instantly curious enough to literally stab his own hand with a knife, just to test it. Yeah, definitely not the smartest experiment. Aura immediately stops him and warns him not to overdo things while explaining that Necronia is an extremely rare race with very little information available about it, to the point where most knowledge about them only exists in legends. Then Aura starts mentioning ancient stories, claiming that Necronia once pioneered the demon lands and even guided the world toward peace itself. Hearing all of that leaves Cross overwhelmed because somehow even more expectations have now landed on his shoulders. Still, he quietly thinks that responsibilities like these originally belonged to Claude, but now he wants to do his best too. Aura softly smiles and tells him not to stress too much, because they are only legends after all. But before the conversation can continue, someone suddenly knocks on the door. A knight introduces herself as Knight Libel, and Aura immediately asks what happened so suddenly. Libel then says she has something important to discuss while Cross casually drinks tea nearby, but the moment she notices him, she coldly declares that humans should never be allowed to stay this close to the Demon Lord. Hearing such a direct insult instantly catches Cross off guard, and honestly, it hurts even more coming from a demon knight instead of a human. Aura immediately defends Cross by explaining that he is a victim of the previous Demon King's schemes and deserves proper respect, but Libel stubbornly argues that humans are deceptive traitors and claims Cross will eventually turn his sword against the Demon Lord too. Aura quickly orders her to stop, then firmly reminds Libel that she is the one standing beside Cross and placing her trust in him. Watching this leaves Cross thinking about how unbelievably loyal Aura is, Then Cross quietly asks Aura what he should do, but before she can answer, Libel suddenly demands that Cross address Aura as Demon Lord properly or she will kill him. Cross internally wonders if threatening people is just a normal knight greeting here or something. Aura apologizes for her knight's behavior, but Cross simply smiles and says, loyalty toward one's master is not a bad thing. Then Aura suddenly comes up with an idea, while Libel immediately declares that this is the perfect opportunity for Cross to prove to the citizens that he is trustworthy. Right after that, Libel points directly at Cross and challenges him to a duel. Cross immediately becomes nervous, but Libel boldly tells him to win and prove himself properly. Aura instantly objects and says she will never allow something this reckless, but Cross unexpectedly accepts the duel anyway. Aura desperately tells him not to make impulsive promises like this, yet Cross calmly explains that if the demons never properly recognize him, then he will never be able to help make Aura's dream come true. The scene then shifts to a massive arena-like auditorium, completely packed with demons, all of whom are placing bets on Cross while Aura quietly watches everything unfold. Seeing the overwhelming excitement around the Sage title leaves Aura realizing just how massive Cross's reputation truly is, though she also worries because she never wanted to pressure him this much. At that moment, Aura's personal maid quietly points out that in the human world, Cross was only known as the dead weight of the hero party, while his opponent Libel is infamous as the traitorous knight, a warrior powerful enough to rival the generals of the previous Demon King's army, which was considered the strongest force in history. The maid nervously admits she honestly cannot see any chance of Cross winning at all, but Aura calmly says they should simply watch what happens. Meanwhile, Cross is internally panicking because he never imagined this duel would become such a massive event, and he even starts regretting acting way cooler than he actually felt earlier. Then Libel stares directly at him and mocks the pathetic expression on his face before sarcastically asking him not to tell her his knees are already shaking. Cross nervously denies it, but Libel coldly warns him not to put on an embarrassing fight because the dignity of the Demon Lord is also involved now. The duel finally begins, and Libel instantly charges forward while swinging her sword directly at Cross, but Cross barely manages to dodge the attack before quickly retreating backward and realizing just how unbelievably fast she is. He immediately understands that he needs to create distance somehow, so he quickly escapes farther away, only for Libel to mockingly ask whether a so-called sage really plans on running forever. Then, without warning, she suddenly creates a magical orb and launches it straight toward Cross, leaving him shocked because apparently she can use magic on top of swordsmanship too. Right after that, Libel starts bombarding him non-stop with magical attacks while reminding him that there are no heroes here to protect him or fight in his place anymore. Another fireball crashes directly into Cross as Aura's maid desperately suggests stopping the fight immediately. But Aura calmly explains that Cross has always been extremely conscious of how other people view him, and because of that harsh environment, he must have developed incredible observational talent. Aura then begins explaining that Cross possesses eyes capable of discerning every movement, eyes that witness the greatest battles in the world, and that the Demon Lord's party would never be foolish enough to carry true dead weight beside them. According to Aura, Cross is genuinely a real member of the hero party, and she can clearly see it herself. Meanwhile, Cross continues enduring the relentless attacks while Aura emotionally realizes that despite never being acknowledged properly, he desperately spent his entire life trying to keep up with everyone around him. And now, finally, the man who was never exiled prepares to strike back. Now the fight between Cross and Libel continues non-stop, while even the demons sitting in the audience start admitting that Libel's destructive power is absolutely terrifying. And honestly, to everyone watching, it already looks like this battle is about to end in a completely one-sided massacre. Cross keeps getting injured over and over while people in the crowd begin questioning whether the legendary sage is actually this terrible at fighting. Meanwhile, Libel continues raining down massive fireballs while coldly commenting that the battle will probably end through magic alone because this fight is becoming unbelievably boring. However, in the middle of all that chaos, Cross suddenly charges directly toward Libel, instantly surprising her, and right then a tiny stone suddenly flies toward her. Libel initially assumes it is some kind of counterattack, only to realize Cross is literally just throwing rocks at her. She immediately mocks him for being pathetic and starts wondering if all he can do is hide and stall for time, but then suddenly dozens of stones start flying toward her one after another. Libel confidently laughs and says attacks like these would not even make her flinch, while angrily asking what exactly Cross is trying to accomplish here. Then more stones continue flying toward her, irritating her even more, so she unleashes another huge wave of fireballs toward Cross. But at that exact moment, Cross suddenly rushes through the explosions with his sword drawn, causing Libel to realize that he intentionally used her own explosions as cover to get close to her. She immediately praises him for being surprisingly clever for such a tiny insect, before pulling out her sword and declaring that now that he finally stepped into her range, this will become his grave. Instantly, Cross charges forward, but Libel swings her blade first and completely slices off one of Cross's hands. The moment that happens, even Aura becomes shocked, while Cross feels unbearable pain shooting through his body. But before Libel can react, Cross suddenly slams directly into her shoulder and points out that she underestimated him and swung too early. Then, using his remaining hand, Cross instantly swings his sword upward and knocks Libel's weapon flying into the air before stopping his blade directly in front of her throat. However, Libel immediately raises her other hand and creates a magical orb, while arguing that losing her sword alone does not mean she has lost the battle yet. Before things escalate further, Aura suddenly shouts that the fight is over and officially declares Cross the winner. Libel immediately tries protesting and insists she can still continue, but demon guards quickly rush in and pull her backward while she angrily screams that she is not lost yet and demands they let her go. Meanwhile, Cross quietly stands back up and internally sighs in relief because his strategy actually worked somehow. Then he suddenly notices the entire crowd chanting his name while excitedly calling him cool and saying they knew he would win because he truly lived up to the expectations of a hero party member. Hearing all of that leaves Cross quietly smiling because, for the very first time, he feels like his previous life was not completely meaningless after all. Soon the scene shifts again to a hospital room, where Aura rushes over to Cross in panic and asks if he is alright before scolding him, because she specifically warned him not to overdo things. Cross simply smiles and casually points out that his arm will regenerate anyway, but Libel immediately says they still have no idea whether his joints and nerves will heal properly or not. Hearing that instantly terrifies Cross because now he starts imagining himself permanently crippled. Then Cross nervously asks Aura what they should do, only for Aura to suddenly excitedly point out that his arm is already growing back. Cross looks over in shock and realizes his arm truly is regenerating, though at the moment it is still tiny and incomplete. Aura becomes completely amazed and admits she has never seen regenerative power this incredible before. Right then, Libel storms into the room angrily while demanding to know why she lost despite clearly being far stronger than Cross. Aura immediately tells her she is acting like a stubborn, sore loser, and insists she did not truly lose like that, but surprisingly Cross agrees with Libel and admits she is correct. Cross calmly explains that the entire outcome only happened because of Libel's carelessness and that he merely exploited a small opening. Libel immediately denies ever having such weaknesses, but Cross points out that everyone has them, even Claude, though he also admits he himself never managed to defeat Claude. Then Cross openly says the only reason he won at all was because he sacrificed his own hand to create that opportunity before honestly admitting that Libel is incredibly powerful. Hearing praise like that leaves Libel silent despite still looking furious, while Aura becomes deeply emotional watching the conversation unfold. Then Cross suddenly asks Libel if she would be willing to trust him, but Libel angrily replies that the duel was only a combat bet and refuses to acknowledge anything beyond that. Cross simply changes the topic and asks her to at least allow him to help with Aura's dream. Aura immediately says he does not need to force himself to work for her, but Cross reminds her that he already promised he would help make her dream come true. Hearing that causes Libel to admit that although his attitude is strange, it is also somehow admirable. Then Libel suddenly suggests to Aura that perhaps they should entrust that matter to Cross instead. Aura hesitates because the situation is extremely risky, and she is not even sure Cross is suitable for it, but at the same time she admits there is nobody else they can truly trust with the mission either. Finally, Aura explains that as the Demon Lord, she has an important request for Cross. She reveals that there are still many demons opposing her policy of coexistence with humans, specifically the remnants of the previous Demon King's army, who have now formed a dangerous new faction capable of launching a coup at any moment. Aura then asks Cross to suppress them, though Cross hesitates and questions whether it is truly right to subjugate them like this. Aura sadly replies that there is simply no other choice. Then she adds one more thing and tells Cross to take Libel along with him on the mission. instantly causing Libel to angrily question why she has to go together with this guy in the first place. Soon the scene shifts again as Cross and Libel sit together on top of a rocky cliff while Cross quietly observes the area and concludes that this is most likely the enemy's hideout. Meanwhile, Cross looks completely focused, while Libel stands there looking extremely annoyed beside him. Here, Cross takes out the food and says, "The Demon Lord's castleware is amazing, that it keeps food warm even after a long time has passed." And seeing the hot meal, Cross quietly wishes he had this back when he was traveling with his hero party, because wouldn't that have made everything so much easier? And just then, Libel questions why Cross is relaxing in a place like this when the enemy base is literally around the corner, angrily asking if he is going soft and if this is happening because he is the one who defeated her and got interested in the Demon Lord's will. But Cross calmly explains that it is nothing like that, and that no one can fight properly on an empty stomach. And as both of them look at the food, Libel's mood suddenly changes as she happily says she wants to eat and asks for more because it tastes really good, making Cross smile as he comments on how quickly her heart changed and says he is glad she likes it. After which Libel suggests that Cross should become the royal chef for the Demon Lord and cook for him from now on, and Cross sarcastically notes that she is clearly saying this for her own benefit before saying he will go check the hideout again. And while observing through binoculars, he recalls that they were told to defeat the enemies, but admits he would rather avoid a fight if possible until he suddenly sees someone coming out of the enemy base and instantly feels like he has been spotted, leaving him shocked and wondering how someone could detect him from such a distance. Like, seriously? What is going on here? So he runs back to Libel and urgently says they need to turn back. But while running, a voice from behind identifies him as Aura's lackey, which makes Cross panic and wonder how this person arrived so quickly. And he remembers Aura once saying that although their enemies do not have many members, there is one leader they must be careful of, Gustar, the one known as Faster Than the Wind, who now recognizes Cross as the famous sage everyone talks about. And before they realize it, Cross and Libel find themselves inside enemy territory where Cross keeps thinking they were practically invited in, and if they are not careful, everyone might jump on them at once. So what should they do now, as Libel begins to pull out her sword, but Cross tells her to stay calm, and she questions why he is stopping her when they came here to defeat them, and asks if he plans to disobey the Demon Lord's orders, to which Cross explains that creating peace between humans and demons is not easy, and if they keep fighting, this dream will never come true. Smiling as he suggests they resolve this peacefully and move Aura's dream one step forward, then walking up to Gustar and asking why he is opposing Aura, and Gustar explains he wants to roam freely across the entire continent, and for that he would have to wipe out humanity, which Cross says is unnecessary. But Gustar doubts this is possible and explains the massive biological power gap between humans and demons, saying humans will never accept the imbalance and will try to regulate demonic power for the sake of equality, which is exactly what he does not want, while Libel sides with Gustar and says humans always betray, making Cross look at her in disbelief because wasn't she on their side? And Gustar declares that if Cross wants him to listen, he must prove he is faster, causing all the demonic monsters to smile as Gustar laughs at the idea that such a person might even exist. And Cross proposes a race saying if he wins, Gustar must listen, thinking this might be his only chance. And surprisingly, Gustar agrees as the surrounding demons begin talking excitedly like it is some kind of celebration with fireworks going off, prompting Libel to wonder if this is a festival, while Cross looks at Gustar and wonders why demons make everything so dramatic. Yeah, that's definitely not normal. And the scene shifts to the starting line where Cross apologizes for being late, and Gustar explains the simple rule that at the top of the hill, there is a tree, and whoever touches it first wins, both getting ready as the race starts instantly, and Gustar shoots forward at incredible speed while Libel points out that Cross is already behind, and the demons cheer that their boss has won, but suddenly Cross stretches out his hand, and a rope appears wrapping around Gustar's horse-like body, dragging Cross into the air as Libel shouts that this is cheating, and Gustar demands to know what he is doing and tells him to let go, while Cross calmly notes this is not against the rules, until a huge rock drags across the ground and smashes into Cross's face, sending him flying upward as Gustar warns he will die like this. But Cross says he wants to change the world, and this is nothing because he has already died twice, making Gustar pause and question this desire to change the world as he explains many of his friends were killed by humans, and asks why he should tolerate this for humanity, pointing out that Cross is still human even after reincarnating and only cares about humans, which Cross denies by saying many demons and humans alike have died, and he himself is stuck in this cycle and things cannot move forward like this, insisting they can all live happily together hand in hand. But Gustar angrily calls this unrealistic dreaming and mocks him for thinking he can win with such tricks. And Cross admits he cannot win this race alone before grabbing a firework and rubbing it against the ground until it explodes, and the blast jerks the rope forward, launching him ahead as he shouts to Gustar to become his friend, and crashes straight into the tree, making Gustar call him an idiot for bursting a firework like that just to fly forward. While Cross casually mentions his amazing regeneration, causing Gustar to laugh and admit no one does something like that, then reminding Cross that he promised to show an extraordinary view. And as Cross smiles, Gustar says he liked it and agrees to follow him and join his team, calling him the mighty Rainbow Sage, to which Cross gently replies that he should just call him Cross. The scene shifts to the human kingdom where a royal worker arrives, formally reports that the term's accounting report is concluded, and takes his leave, while Claude mutters to himself with sarcasm about titles like Humanity's Savior, Humanity's Guardian, King of Kings, then questions what he is even doing and why he is protecting humans when perhaps humanity should be destroyed. And suddenly a knife flies toward him, which he casually catches as Mary scolds him for saying such foolish things, reminding him that Cross had been thinking like this for a long time too, and that a world Cross risked his life to protect cannot simply be destroyed, making Claude admit he knows this and apologize, saying he might just be tired, as Mary exhales in relief and gently asks what happened to make him this exhausted, even teasingly offering comfort with her presence before he awkwardly tells her not to joke like that because she does not feel that way anyway, and then he points out she has no intention toward anyone except Cross, prompting Mary to say they should get to the point and reveal that she wants to meet Cross's parents, which instantly angers Claude as he reminds her they promised never to go near them because they would only bring trouble, but Mary insists he should at least listen since she came first, explaining that Cross always considered them true friends from the bottom of his heart, and mentioned Claude in his letters not as a hero, but simply as Claude, recalling the stupid things they did together, the fun they had, the times they got stuck, which makes Claude emotional enough to start crying. And then Mary adds another piece of news that Mediel and Sophia left for monster territory a few days ago, making Claude abruptly stand and declare that they are definitely up to something. And when Mary asks if she should come along, he says that without Cross he does not feel they need to stay together, but she reminds him they met at Cross's grave. So he finally agrees and says they should go and destroy the monsters, and the scene shifts again to Cross, Gustar, and the demons celebrating where Libel angrily asks what they are doing when they are supposed to be on a mission, while Gustar tells her not to be so strict since a celebration after a battle is necessary, which only makes Libel insult his horse-like face as he clarifies only his body is like a horse, not his face, but she insists even his face looks like one and calls it gross, until Cross arrives with food and tells them to stop because he made this and they should eat, which annoys Gustar as he asks why the star of the show is cooking, while Libel immediately starts eating, and Cross explains he was always interested in monster cuisine, so they taught him, causing a demon to protest that they cannot accept this, but Gustar says this is simply the result of the contest, and they should not say such things, though some still complain that this cannot count since Cross took advantage of their boss's manliness. And then Gustar puts a hand on Cross's shoulder saying he has a good idea, and the next moment, tears run from Cross's eyes and nose as he is seen riding Gustar like a mount while all the demons cheer again, and Libel watches in annoyance thinking everyone here must be idiots, and wishing she could just go back to Aura quickly, while Cross internally praises himself for somehow surviving this without vomiting. Of all places, why this? And Gustar loudly pats his back saying he really has guts, which instantly makes Cross throw up anyway, and Libel arrives calling this a gathering of fools and mocks Cross for still being so pathetic, making him wonder if she is drunk, but she slaps his face and denies it before grabbing his neck and saying, "There is no drink strong enough to make her drunk," while Cross claims he himself is completely drunk, and Libel starts forcing him to drink more, and later at night in an open field, Cross sits quietly when Gustar comes, and says there are still some remnants nearby and if he meditates they might be able to communicate, making Cross say that if they talk, they might understand each other better, and increase their allies because a world without conflict is not just a dream, though Gustar doubts it will be that simple, and mentions a troubling monster party led by a powerful fire dragon named Dryog, who is stronger than all other remnants and sees humans as nothing but food, which Libel says she has heard about and believes Aura must know too. And Cross confidently says that with Gustar's connections and Libel's strength, this might work. But Libel tells him he should do something as well. So Cross explains that if they unite the monsters' opinions, perhaps even Claude and Aura could have a discussion, which Libel immediately rejects by saying heroes would never listen. Yet Cross insists that if they talk, Claude will understand because he is truly a good man. And Gustar adds that he heard the hero has disappeared from the kingdom, surprising Cross, who asks what he means. But suddenly a voice cries for help as a wounded monster arrives, begging Gustar for assistance, revealing he is from Dreyag's group, and panicking that the hero is attacking them. And moments later, the fire dragon collapses dead as Claude stands over the body and declares that he dedicates this dragon's death to Cross. The scene shifts into the past where Cross cooks and casually wonders if eating the same food every day does not get boring, then tells Claude that when they reach another city they will buy something properly good to eat. But Claude replies that food made by Cross's hands is the most luxurious thing for him, making Cross smile at how nicely he speaks, and then the scene snaps back to the present as Claude says he wants to eat food made by Cross because everything else tastes completely tasteless. And as he lifts his sword, Cross looks at him, and Claude's eyes meet Cross. But Claude then looks at the surrounding monsters and says they are demons after all, and that nothing else really matters, prompting Cross to urgently tell him to wait and recognize that it is him, Cross, explaining there is no need to fight monsters anymore because, unlike the previous demon lord, Aura does not want conflict. But suddenly Cross's arm is cut off, shocking both Libel and Gustar, as Claude angrily warns the demon not to speak about Cross like that, and kicks Cross so hard he flies backward, and Cross, struggling, explains that something happened to him, and this is the curse of the previous demon lord, that he became a monster but inside he is still the same human with all his memories intact. Yet Claude swings his sword again in rage and begins describing how Cross never had such a foolish-looking face, saying Cross's face used to be round and soft with cute eyes and straight hair that truly represented him. While Cross almost helplessly asks if he does not look better now and reminds Claude that he was the one who asked him to join the party, and that he remembers everything, recalling how Mary taught him swimming at the port town, how Sophia and Medivh gave him water in the desert, how Claude used to eat the delicious food he made, and how everyone saying anything is fine is actually troublesome, even reminding him of their promise to drink until morning and inviting him to drink now. But another powerful kick hits Cross as Claude says a demon that can read human memories disgusts him even more, claiming that if reincarnation truly existed he would have tried it himself long ago. And at that moment, magical blasts strike Claude as Libel attacks, declaring that the hero is nothing but an obstacle in Aura's dream and saying that since he killed the demon lord, no one would complain if she killed him. But Claude instantly grabs Libel by the head and drives his sword into her. And just as he is about to kill her, Cross thrusts his hand forward and loses it again while Gustar quickly rescues Libel, and Claude steps in front of Cross, placing his sword at his neck, but then suddenly pauses, staring at him and asking who he really is and why he feels such overwhelming anger, admitting his heart feels restless before pulling his sword back and saying that is enough and he no longer desires to kill him, warning Cross never to appear before him again, or he will destroy every monster without losing, as Cross lies on the ground and Claude walks away. And the scene shifts to a hot spring, where Dreag the Fire Dragon, Cross, and Gustar bathe together while the Dragon Master expresses gratitude for being rescued. And Gustar comments that, as expected from a dragon's vitality, he was not actually close to dying, while Cross sadly says Claude did not even recognize him, prompting Gustar to bluntly ask how long he plans to mope over this because it is pathetic, reminding him that even Dreag has now become their ally, as the dragon promises that if he meets the hero again, he will pay him back, and Gustar adds that Cross is trying to build a world where they do not fight humans, which makes the dragon admit it might be possible since his comrades were close to death, and he will not report this recklessly, but Gustar says this is exactly why he thought it would be difficult, because persuading humans might be even harder than persuading monsters, and when Gustar asks if this was too much for Cross, Cross firmly replies that even if they have only met once like this, he will not give up, and he will convince Claude that he really is Cross because as his best friend, he is the only one who can do it. The scenes now shift straight into the Demon Kingdom, and right away Aura looks relieved, knowing everyone made it back safely, and honestly, after everything that just happened, that relief feels earned. She then explains that she has already heard the full report, and apparently nobody expected them to return after becoming allied with the remnant forces. Then Gustar suddenly steps forward and makes it very clear that people should not misunderstand him, because he is not following the Demon Lord at all. He is only following Cross, and yeah, that kind of loyalty after barely meeting someone? Even Aura looks genuinely impressed for a second. After that, Aura praises Libel too for doing well, but Libel quietly admits that she merely lost her way again, and that this is already the second time it has happened, which honestly does not sound very reassuring. Then Cross suddenly remembers Claude's words about exterminating the monsters, and immediately the tension changes because now the real question appears, are they actually heading toward a war against humanity? Aura calmly explains the current state between humans and demons, saying things are economically stable and their relations with the maritime merchant nations are surprisingly well maintained. However, the territories surrounding the Hero Kingdom and the old Demon Lord's castle are still heavily anti-monster. Cross immediately wonders if those nations attack them, but Aura explains that the attacks lacked any real intensity, and then she reveals something far more suspicious. Shortly after Cross's group encountered the hero Claude, the other party members were seen separately across the nation, and if this had truly been war, they would have moved together as one united party. Instead, this feels personal, and naturally Cross starts wondering why they would even do something like this in the first place. That is when Aura quietly drops the answer that hits the hardest, explaining that they are most likely searching specifically for Cross. For a moment, Cross completely falls silent because he genuinely believed he was protecting everyone, but now he starts wondering if all he actually did was make them suffer even more. Then anger suddenly takes over him, and he declares that he has to tell them he is alive no matter what happens. Aura then explains that 8 years of peace have made the monsters complacent, and that all monster races need to unite quickly, while Cross immediately declares that he will simply make everyone his ally. Aura quickly warns him not to overdo it, and meanwhile Guster points out that dealing with both the remnant forces and the opposition will not be easy at all. Nearby, Libel just silently stands there until Cross reminds her that she once saved him and asks if she will come with him too. But before she can even respond, Gustar suddenly blurts out that the mummy should not become the mummifier. And honestly, what does that even mean? Even the atmosphere pauses for a second there. Then Gustar confidently announces that since this is his first time in the capital in ages, he will handle the scouting himself, while Aura internally panics over how unbelievably terrible their coordination already is. And honestly, fair point. A little later, Aura announces that they have arrived at the treasury and explains that their liege is waiting before ordering someone to guide them through the Mercurius treasury. Cross immediately looks confused after seeing the person standing there, because that woman is apparently not Aura's maid. And then the maid suddenly mentions watching Cross's recent match, where he subdued Dreg. She dramatically praises the sight of the weak confronting and crushing the strong, before instantly turning toward Libel, and verbally destroying her instead for underestimating opponents and losing so pathetically before demanding that she atone for it. Aura quietly explains that this woman used to be Libel's superior, while the maid herself wonders when Libel plans to finally grow up already. At that point, Cross awkwardly smiles and lightly asks her to go easier on Libel, because she already looks like she is melting from embarrassment. Aura quickly changes the topic and tells everyone to enter the treasury, and the moment they walk inside, Cross is left completely speechless by the sheer quality, quantity, and overwhelming amount of ether filling the place. Aura proudly explains that this is their greatest treasury, while meanwhile, the maid practically starts worshipping the treasures around her like she has entered heaven itself, admiring every single item as if each one is personally declaring itself the most valuable thing in existence. Aura quietly admits that the woman is completely obsessed with treasures, and Cross whispers that she honestly does not seem like a very reliable guide. But Aura explains that despite everything, nobody knows this place better than her. Then Aura asks Cross what type of weapon he can use, and Cross explains that Mary taught him many different fighting styles, meaning he can use almost any weapon, although if he had to choose, he would definitely prefer a sword, and maybe even a dagger too, but absolutely nothing flashy because, yeah, glowing legendary weapons sound cool until they reveal your location every 5 seconds. He then mentions that something similar to Claude's sword would be ideal, and soon his attention lands on 3 swords nearby. After asking Aura about one of them, she casually explains that it is merely mass-produced and not something she would recommend, But Cross immediately rejects that idea because to him, that sword is Claude's sword. Aura then reveals that the blade originally belonged to the hero who defeated the previous demon lord, which causes Cross to briefly pause in surprise before his attention shifts toward a dagger called ataraxia. The maid immediately notices his interest and explains that, as expected, the sage's keen eyes would naturally notice interesting artifacts, while Cross internally realizes that her strange big sister-like demeanor has suddenly returned again. However, the maid continues explaining that despite being rare, the weapon is not actually considered a good sword because it is defective. It is a living weapon that grows alongside its wielder, evolves with them, and even changes form to match its owner. But unlike normal weapons that simply make their user stronger, this one develops together with them instead. Even after hearing all of that, Cross immediately grabs the sword and decides to take it anyway, causing the maid to stare at him in disbelief as she wonders whether he even listened to anything she just explained. But Cross simply lifts the blade and quietly says that together with this sword, he will become even stronger. Aura softly smiles and comments that the sword is honestly just like Cross himself before hoping the two of them become good partners. As Cross silently stares at the blade, a sudden memory echoes inside his mind, and the scenes shift into the past where Claude is handing his childhood sword over to Cross. Cross immediately refuses because he cannot accept something that precious, but Claude insists on giving it to him anyway. Then Mary suddenly complains that Claude always gets every advantage first. Sophia pulls out a robe and offers it to Cross too. Mary offers her dagger as well, and then Medea casually decides that she might as well offer her own body instead, causing Cross to instantly turn red in embarrassment while awkwardly thanking everyone, and yeah, that conversation went downhill insanely fast. Back in the present, Cross quietly reflects on how dependent he used to be on everyone else, before telling himself that he needs to become independent. Then, with renewed determination, he decides that he will become stronger for everyone's sake, and immediately suggests finding Claude right away. But before they can leave, Aura stops him because she has one request first. She wants Cross to attend their educational institution for a few days, and apologizes for the sudden urgency, explaining that it is considered a citizen's duty. Cross simply smiles and says it is completely fine, because now he is technically a monster too, and then he surprisingly becomes excited about the idea of attending school, since as a human he never even got the chance to experience one before. However, just when things finally seem normal for once, Aura casually reveals that the institution is actually a kindergarten, and now Cross is literally spending his time playing around with tiny monster children. Like, seriously, of all places, why here? Now, the scenes shift toward a classroom where the teacher announces that all the children are ready, and meanwhile, Cross sits there thinking about how he never once imagined that he would someday become a kindergarten student. Like, seriously, of all possible outcomes in life, this? While he is still processing that thought, he suddenly notices familiar faces standing nearby. Gustar immediately starts laughing and explains that there was no way they were going to miss something this interesting. While Aura, now wearing different clothes, admits that she was worried about Cross too. Hearing that, Cross quickly changes his mindset and decides that this is actually a good opportunity to learn more about demons, and not only that, he also wants to become a good example for the children around him. Then the teacher announces that today's lesson will be about different races, and before long the lecture comes to an end. The teacher asks whether all the children understood everything, but meanwhile Cross is completely stressed out because he did not understand a single thing. While the demon children around him are somehow celebrating because according to them the lesson was extremely easy. Yeah, that is definitely not normal. After that, game period begins and all the children run outside to play, while Cross quietly sits alone in a corner wondering how even being a kindergarten student somehow turns out to be difficult. Then suddenly, a tiny demon girl walks up to him, calls him cool, and proudly announces that she wants to become his wife. Cross smiles awkwardly and thanks her, before gently explaining that if her feelings still remain the same after she grows up, then maybe he will think about it seriously at that time. The little girl instantly becomes happy and runs away excitedly. And shortly after that, Aura walks over and comments that Cross interacts surprisingly well with children. Cross explains that his old party often spent time together with kids. And right after that, the scenes suddenly shift into the past where Cross is sitting with his former team, while happily watching children play around. Cross mentions how nice it feels to watch children enjoying themselves, while Medilli agrees and says spending time with children is genuinely fun. Then suddenly a child walks straight toward Claude and stands in front of him. Claude calmly asks whether the kid is okay, and immediately the child bursts into tears. Cross instantly reacts by asking whether Claude somehow managed to make another child cry again. And honestly, at this point, that almost sounds like a hidden skill. Then the scenes return to the present where several demon children are now climbing all over Gustar while he looks visibly irritated. And Aura quickly reminds everyone that they need to protect these children. Cross agrees immediately before deciding to join the kids in their game instead. He walks over and asks what they are all playing, and the children excitedly explain that they are playing Sage. Cross watches the game for a second and realizes that apparently, in their minds, the Sage is basically the greatest hero imaginable. However, the children suddenly decide that Cross should play the hero role instead, and hearing that immediately makes him excited as he confidently tells everyone to leave things to him. Then Cross dramatically announces that they should all go defeat the bad guys together, and suddenly he points directly toward Libel and declares that an evil knight is standing right over there. The children immediately charge toward Libel at full speed while she instantly panics and insists that she is not doing anything evil at all. The children loudly declare that they are going to defeat her, which somehow genuinely irritates Libel enough for her to start chasing after them, while angrily asking whether this is really how they plan to defeat her. Meanwhile, Gustar sarcastically praises the children's fighting skills from the side, before suddenly declaring himself the Demon Lord, and announcing that he will now become their opponent instead. The children instantly switch targets and start climbing all over him too, while another little demon child confidently declares that the Demon Lord will never lose, because now the Demon Lord has become stronger and needs to continue growing even stronger ahead. Right then, Libel suddenly charges forward angrily, but Gustar quickly stops her and points out that the children are not her actual enemies. Then one of the students nervously mentions hearing from her father that people should not speak to the Demon Lord like that, and suddenly the children start discussing humans attacking them, because the current Demon Lord is weak and because demons themselves are becoming weaker too. One demon child boldly argues that demons are stronger than humans anyway, and that they should attack first just like the previous Demon Lord once did. Before the conversation can escalate further, the teacher suddenly arrives and announces that it is lunchtime before telling all the children to wash their hands and return to the classroom. Meanwhile, Cross quietly sits there eating bread while thinking deeply about how many monsters probably believe the same thing. The previous Demon Lord was militaristic, so naturally many demons ended up influenced by that ideology. And honestly, the belief that a strong king is better is not entirely wrong either, because many great nations in history were led by rulers who personally led their armies. While Cross remains lost in thought, the teacher suddenly announces that a special teacher will now arrive for the afternoon study session, and Cross immediately starts wondering what exactly children should even be taught in a world like this. Then suddenly Aura enters the classroom and asks all the children to listen to her story for a moment, which even surprises Cross himself. Aura then begins speaking about her dream of creating a world where humans and demons no longer fight each other, before asking whether the children have dreams too. One demon child says he wants to become a baker. Another little girl proudly announces that she wants to become Cross's wife again, while another child says he wants to become strong in battle. Aura warmly praises all of their dreams before explaining that if war begins, then none of them will ever be able to achieve those dreams. Many people would be forced onto battlefields instead. She explains that she wants to create a world where all children can fulfill their dreams, where their children and even their grandchildren can continue doing the same. Then Aura explains that she also wants them to see a bigger world, because simply seeing demon territory alone is not enough. Once their world grows larger, their dreams will naturally grow larger too. However, one demon child suddenly argues that such a thing is impossible because even the demon lord has not achieved it yet. Aura calmly admits that it will not be easy, but she explains that she has companions by her side, she has her sage, and she also has all of them. So she asks the children to keep learning while she creates the right environment for them, before asking whether they truly believe this dream cannot be achieved. Immediately, all the children begin shouting that they will help the demon lord and support her dream. And eventually, even the child who disagreed earlier admits that he wants to believe in a dream like that too. Then Aura quietly admits that even if she is weaker than the previous demon lord in terms of power, she is far greedier than all of them because her ambitions are simply bigger. After that, Aura walks outside the classroom and suddenly criticizes herself, wondering whether she was simply manipulating everyone with pretty words. However, Cross overhears her and immediately tells her that none of that is true because she gave an amazing speech. Aura then quietly admits that she ended up showing something pathetic, but Cross instantly disagrees and explains that this is actually her strength. He tells her that as a ruler, she cannot show weakness to everyone around her, but at the very least, she should not hide those feelings from him. Aura quietly says that she does not want to drag him into her troubles, but Cross casually responds by suggesting that they simply become friends instead. Aura immediately points out that she cannot act like kindergarten children because she is much older than him. And the moment she says that, Cross jokingly wonders whether she is proposing to him instead. That single sentence instantly makes Aura blush as she softly says Cross's name, while Cross simply smiles back at her. Then finally, the scenes shift once again toward a house where Sophia quietly stands near a window and says that she wants to see Cross again soon, asking him to wait for her because one day she will bring him back to life once more. Now the scenes shift again as Aura begins discussing Team Beautiful's policy, but the moment Cross hears that name, he instantly stops everything and wonders what kind of ridiculous name that even is. Then Gustar jokingly assumes that it probably means beautiful but foolish people, while Libel calmly explains that it is basically beauty mixed with stupidity. And honestly, somehow that explanation only makes it worse. Aura then continues seriously and explains that their basic policy will remain the same as before. They still need to bring the opposing side over to their own faction because the opposition is gaining momentum due to the heroes' recent attacks. That means inspecting the areas that were attacked is now extremely urgent, and on top of that, they also need to deal with the heroes' party before things become completely catastrophic. After that, Aura asks Cross whether he can handle persuasion, and Cross confidently says to leave it to him because according to him, this is something only he can do. Gustar immediately questions whether he can actually pull that off, since from what he saw earlier, the hero's party did not exactly look like the type that listens to reason. Then Gustar wonders whether everyone in the hero's party is that terrifying, and Cross awkwardly admits that most of them basically are. Hearing that, Gustar wonders what kind of horrifying group Cross used to travel with, while Libel quietly asks whether there is at least one decent person among them. Cross immediately answers that Medil is actually nice, and then the scenes suddenly shift. Now Cross finds himself trapped inside a maze while thinking about how badly things have gone since he became completely separated from everyone else. Standing inside the dungeon, he reflects on how he never expected the dungeon to suddenly transform like that. Then suddenly Sophia appears right in front of him and asks how he managed to figure out where to find her. Sophia then explains that it is because their souls are connected in this world, in the spiritual world, and in every life after that. No matter how many times they are reborn, they will always remain together. And according to her, it is impossible for her to ever leave him or recognize someone else in his place. Cross quietly admits that he is happy they managed to reunite again, while Sophia gently says that it will always be just the two of them together forever. However, before the moment can continue, Claude suddenly appears and realizes that the mysterious voice from before actually belonged to Sophia all along. Then Medil immediately asks Cross whether he is injured, while Mary aggressively declares that she will never allow Cross and Sophia to spend time alone together. At that point, Cross quickly tells everyone that they need to leave before the dungeon collapses completely. Then the scenes return back to the present where Cross casually comments about how incredible mages really are, causing Aura to admit that she has never even heard of magic like Sophia's before. Meanwhile, Guster sarcastically says that he almost feels bad for the poor person who originally created the dungeon. Aura then announces that their policy is finally decided, and now they need to head toward the village Sophia destroyed in order to search for her. Soon the scenes shift again, and now Aura and Cross are traveling through a forest together. Aura excitedly comments about how fun traveling feels, while Cross nervously wonders why Aura herself decided to come along too. Aura explains that after boldly making all those declarations in front of the children, she could not just quietly sit around in oil quartz waiting anymore. Cross then asks what will happen to the Demon King's duties, but Aura casually tells him not to worry because she already left everything to someone reliable. Deep down, though, she quietly admits to herself that she actually just left everything to her future self and is basically calling procrastination a strategy. Yeah, that sounds about right. Then Gustar suddenly points ahead and asks Cross whether he can deal with whatever is up there. Nearby, Libel stands there in complete shock, while thinking that they cannot afford another failure and that this mission has to succeed. No, matter what. Seeing this, Cross quietly thinks that he genuinely believed Libel had improved after the kindergarten experience. Then, Aura suddenly entrusts Libel with the important duty of acting as her escort throughout the journey and says she is counting on her. Libel instantly panics before loudly telling Aura to leave everything to her, while both Gustar and Cross silently realize how unbelievably easy that was. Then Libel suddenly gets fired up and excitedly declares that whether the enemy is a hero or a witch, they should bring them all on. Right after that, Libel walks toward Gustar and asks to ride on him like a horse, which Gustar immediately rejects while reminding her that he never officially joined the Demon Kingdom in the first place. Then Gustar walks over to Cross instead and casually says that if Cross asks him personally, he would not mind letting him ride on him. Cross instantly refuses and awkwardly says he is completely fine walking normally. Meanwhile, Libel suddenly becomes hyper alert and stays glued to Aura's side the entire time. Soon night falls and now Cross is cooking food while Aura watches him and comments that they should finally be able to see their destination soon. After that, everyone quietly eats together before the scenes shift again to Cross, helping Aura with different tasks while the group continues traveling forward. Eventually, they run into several suspicious demon thugs, and their leader immediately threatens them to get out of the way unless they want to die. Cross quietly asks Aura whether these guys are basically just thugs, and Aura calmly confirms that she has no problem with them being dealt with. Hearing that, Cross tells his partner that this will technically be their first battle together, and immediately after that, Libel and Gustar charge forward and wipe out the enemies in a single instant. Cross stands there completely stunned, because before he can even move, every single enemy is already dead. Aura happily praises everyone and says she is glad they are all safe, but suddenly an arrow flies straight toward her. Without hesitation, Cross blocks it using his own arm, causing Aura to panic and ask whether he is okay, but Cross casually brushes it off like it is nothing serious. Afterward, the remaining thugs are tied up with ropes, and their leader desperately tells the Demon King that if she plans to kill them, then she should just do it immediately. However, Aura says something about this situation feels wrong because the group seemed way too desperate to escape. Then Gustar suddenly reveals that these are not ordinary thugs at all because they are actually remnant soldiers. Hearing that, the thug leader regrets not fighting from the beginning instead of trying to run away. Libel angrily demands to know what exactly they were running from, and the terrified soldiers finally reveal that they were running from a witch. The moment Cross hears that, he instantly orders everyone to run away immediately, but before anyone can react, a massive explosion suddenly erupts and Sophia appears. Sophia casually asks what exactly everyone's problem is before telling the terrified soldiers that she already saved them. So now they should hurry up and continue researching her. The demon monsters panic and admit that Sophia is far too powerful, while another monster desperately tells everyone not to falter because the enemy is still only one person and they should attack all at once. One of them even shouts that they need to avenge the Demon King, but Sophia instantly reacts by saying that revenge is supposed to be her line before coldly deciding that everyone has become too annoying, meaning she will now kill all of them. And right at that moment, Cross suddenly makes his dramatic hero entrance and calls out Sophia's name. Sophia immediately stretches out her hand and casts magic directly on Cross, causing everyone around him to freeze in shock. Then suddenly, Sophia recognizes him. She emotionally admits that she has wanted to see him again for so long, and says she is genuinely happy he is alive because she loves him. According to her, her soul itself tells her that this is truly Cross standing before her, and hearing all of that leaves even Cross completely stunned. Now Cross and Sophia stand directly in front of each other, and Sophia immediately becomes emotional after realizing that Cross is actually alive. Cross himself looks completely shocked and wonders how she recognized him so easily. But Sophia calmly explains that he still clearly feels exactly like Cross to her, and that it is impossible for her to mistake him for anyone else. In fact, she even finds it strange that Cross himself is surprised by this. Cross awkwardly admits that the reason he is shocked is because Claude failed to recognize him earlier. But Sophia instantly responds by implying that maybe Claude's love was only worth that much. Hearing that, Cross immediately starts wondering whether that judgment is a little too harsh toward Claude. Then Sophia suddenly pauses after properly looking at Cross's face and shyly admits that it is true he has changed a little. Cross jokingly replies that becoming a demon probably counts as more than just a small change. Sophia then asks how he even returned to life in the first place, and wonders whether it was reincarnation or some kind of soul transfer, but before Cross can fully answer, Aura and the others suddenly arrive there too. Aura quickly says she is relieved that Cross is safe and asks him not to rush forward so recklessly again, while Cross apologizes and awkwardly explains that his body basically moved on its own. Then Cross immediately tries to introduce Sophia to Aura, but before he can properly finish, Sophia suddenly raises a magical orb toward Aura and directly attacks her. In an instant, Libel jumps forward to protect Aura and swings her sword, causing a massive explosion to erupt between them. Right after that, Libel quickly asks Aura whether she is all right, while another blazing fireball suddenly flies past Libel's face as she barely dodges it in time. Sophia then angrily questions why demons are standing around Cross, and especially why a woman like Aura is near him at all. Her anger keeps rising as she demands that they return Cross because, according to her, Cross belongs to her alone. Without hesitation, Libel immediately charges towards Sophia again with her sword raised, but Sophia coldly declares that she waited nearly 10 entire years for this moment. Then, in a single instant, Sophia effortlessly counters Libel's attack. Sophia then declares that she will never allow anyone to steal what belongs to her ever again, leaving both Gustar and Aura visibly shocked. Meanwhile, Libel realizes in disbelief that Sophia can even handle close combat perfectly, despite being a mage. At the same time, Sophia internally notices something strange herself, because Libel managed to interfere with her magic and even resist her control. According to Sophia, Libel is clearly different from ordinary rebels and dangerous enough that she could even enchant Cross himself. Then Aura desperately tries calming the situation by explaining that this is all just a misunderstanding, because they are not Cross's enemies at all and are actually standing beside him. Hearing that completely surprises Sophia for a moment, but then she immediately begins talking about how Cross was always forced to look down on himself. insulted for things that were never true, and constantly surrounded by ignorant people. According to Sophia, Cross silently endured all of it with a smile only for everyone else's sake. And now she believes these people are taking advantage of that kindness too. Aura firmly denies that they would ever use Cross like that, but Sophia refuses to listen and insists that Cross belongs with her instead. Aura keeps trying to make her understand the situation, but suddenly Gustar notices something even worse. Cross is gone. Meanwhile, several demon thugs secretly kidnap Cross in the middle of all the chaos, while Cross struggles and tells them to let him go. One of the thugs calmly tells him not to panic, or he might fall because they were specifically ordered to bring him back alive. Cross internally panics after realizing that he got kidnapped without even noticing because he was too focused on Sophia the entire time. Then the scenes shift toward the thug hideout where Cross is tied up with ropes while a soldier kicks him forward and orders him to keep walking. As Cross moves ahead, he keeps worrying about the battle still happening behind him, because things could become disastrous if he does not return quickly. At the same time, he notices that these enemies are trained soldiers, and he starts thinking that if only one guard is nearby, he might actually be able to kill him and escape. Then one soldier announces to the boss that they successfully brought Cross back, and suddenly Cross comes face to face with a gigantic demon monster sitting there. The monster immediately recognizes him as the Rainbow Sage, causing Cross to panic internally because he instantly realizes he cannot possibly defeat someone like this. Cross asks why they kidnapped him, and the boss casually reveals that Cross is simply being used as a hostage. When Cross asks what exactly they want in exchange, the boss directly demands Demon King Aura's head. Hearing that instantly angers Cross, because according to him, there is no way a demand like that would ever work. However, the boss explains that he heard the people around Aura cared deeply about Cross, making him a valuable bargaining tool. Cross internally thinks this entire situation sounds absurd and wonders whether the boss ever intended to negotiate seriously in the first place. Then Cross asks how these people even knew they would arrive there, and the boss explains that this region lies close both to the royal castle and the lands recently attacked by humans. Because of that, the chances of the sage being dispatched here were actually pretty high. The boss then reveals that some people were even talking about avenging the previous demon lord, but according to him, they simply ended up becoming bait instead before eventually getting wiped out pathetically. Cross then asks why the boss is so hostile toward Aura specifically, but instead of answering properly, the boss mocks Cross for doing nothing but asking questions while being a hostage. Cross insists that this will be his final question, and finally the boss reveals his true reason. He admits that he no longer wants to keep fighting humans because it is too troublesome, and he simply wants to live happily instead. Hearing that, Cross realizes this entire motivation is nothing more than selfishness. However, the boss immediately compares Aura to himself and claims that because Aura lacks the strength to fight directly, she simply wants to create a peaceful playground that benefits her personally. Cross instantly becomes furious and tells him not to compare Aura to someone like him before directly calling him nothing more than a thug. Enraged by that response, the boss orders Cross to be locked up immediately. Soon afterward, the soldiers throw Cross into a prison cell and order him to quietly stay there. Cross sits there silently for a moment, before eventually deciding that escaping is the only option. He then happily remembers that Mary once taught him escape techniques, allowing him to break free from the prison ropes surprisingly easily. After sneaking out, Cross notices that there are almost no guards nearby, and immediately starts running while thinking about how desperately he needs to reunite with everyone else. But just as he is escaping, a sudden explosion erupts nearby and a massive hand instantly slams Cross backward into a wall. The demon boss calmly walks toward him and explains that locking Cross in a cell was already mercy in itself, but because Cross tried to escape, now he should prepare to die instead. Right then, the scenes suddenly shift again, as Cross's companions finally arrive at the thug hideout together with Sophia. Sophia asks whether this is really the place, and Aura confirms that this is indeed their base. The moment she hears that, Sophia's expression darkens completely as she coldly declares that she is going to kill every single one of them. The moment a massive explosion erupts through the base, the demon thugs immediately panic and start shouting that an intruder has arrived and needs to be captured quickly. But then, from behind them, a calm voice echoes out, asking who could possibly kill a demon like this in the first place. Right there, Sophia appears while spinning her magical staff effortlessly, completely destroying enemies in her path. Even Gustar looks shaken as he watches her wipe everyone out alone, while Aura quietly admits that keeping someone this dangerous as an ally is honestly terrifying. Hearing that instantly irritates Sophia, and she sharply tells Aura not to joke about calling her a companion. According to Sophia, the only reason everyone there is still alive is because Aura claimed she knew where Cross was. Then Sophia coldly warns them that once Cross is rescued, they will be next. Aura immediately steps forward and tells everyone to stay focused on rescuing Cross first, but Libel quietly points out that following Sophia around like this is extremely inefficient and suggests searching another area instead. Aura agrees with her immediately, while Gustar silently watches the entire exchange before commenting that Libel seems unusually motivated this time. Libel straightforwardly replies that the mission came directly from Lady Aura, so of course she is serious about it. Then, after lowering her head slightly, she quietly admits that there is also another reason. She cannot move forward without repaying her debt first. Hearing that makes Aura smile because honestly, that answer sounds exactly like Libel. Aura then explains that the remnant soldiers here are far more dangerous than she originally expected. She thought they were merely criminals rapidly committing random crimes, but this situation is clearly different. Since Cross is being held hostage, Aura hopes they will not kill him, though she is still deeply worried. Meanwhile, Aura and Libel are literally riding on top of Gustar while moving through the hideout, and Gustar angrily complains that this is a special exception he is only making once. Both Aura and Libel still look uncomfortable, while Libel snaps at him to at least carry them properly. Gustar immediately argues back that he cannot afford compromises while running at full speed. Eventually, they open a door and discover countless demon thugs waiting inside. Gustar instantly notices how many enemies there are, but Libel immediately jumps down and tells Lady Aura to stay behind, because she will handle everything herself. Then, in a single terrifying moment, Libel rushes forward, swings her sword, and wipes out every thug there almost instantly. After defeating them, she calmly questions whether this was truly all those criminals were capable of. Then she confidently asks if there is anyone stronger left. But suddenly, a gigantic explosion erupts beneath her feet. At the same time, Libel proudly declares that she alone is capable of protecting Lady Aura, only for the ground itself to suddenly collapse underneath her, dragging her deep below. Aura immediately panics and says they need to rescue Libel quickly, but before they can react further, another demon monster quietly appears nearby. The monster explains that just as expected, even the Demon King herself came here, and according to him, kidnapping the sage has become pointless now because the boss is already enjoying himself. So naturally, he decides he wants to join the fun too. The instant the monster moves, Gustar rushes forward and lands a massive punch directly onto it. However, the monster's body instantly melts into liquid, and when Gustar looks down at his own arm, he realizes it has been badly burned from the contact. Moments later, the slime-like monster reforms itself completely, and explains that anyone touching its body will simply melt away too. Gustar still throws another powerful punch anyway, causing the monster to call him an idiot for not understanding the situation. And honestly, bro really is trying to fistfight acid itself at this point. As the battle continues, Gustar's injuries become even worse, and he internally realizes that physical attacks are completely useless against a slime monster like this. His body is already burning badly, and he starts thinking that he cannot even land a proper hit anymore. The slime monster mocks him further and tells him to keep his distance before countless poisonous bubbles suddenly begin floating through the air. According to the monster, the entire area has already become its territory now. Then the liquid demon casually wonders whether killing the Demon King would bring him fame or embarrassment, before deciding it does not matter anyway because there is no other solution left. Slowly and cruelly, he promises to melt all of them down completely. Gustar stands there anxiously for a moment, but then Aura suddenly steps forward and raises her hand. Gustar immediately tells her to run away instead, but before he can finish speaking, Aura activates her magic. Instantly, every poisonous bubble freezes into crystal. Even the slime monster becomes completely shocked because this power does not resemble ordinary magic at all. Aura coldly warns him not to stand in their way while they are in a hurry, and in the next moment, the slime monster itself crystallizes entirely. Without wasting a second, Gustar lands one final massive punch, shattering the crystallized monster into pieces. Afterward, Gustar looks toward Aura and jokingly asks whether she lied back at the kindergarten when she claimed she was weak. Aura calmly replies that she only meant that even she would struggle fighting Sophia alone. Gustar then points out that she clearly trained herself a lot, and Aura confirms that she did. According to Aura, in emergency situations, she wants to stand in front of her people and fight beside them directly because that is the kind of ruler she wants to become. Soon after, Libel calls out to Aura from below and asks whether she is all right. Aura immediately asks the same question back and wonders what happened to the enemies chasing her earlier. Libel casually replies that she already defeated them and that it was actually pretty easy. Gustar instantly starts laughing and points out that she says it was easy despite looking completely beaten up herself. Libel quickly fires back by saying he does not look much better either. Then she proudly reminds him that she defeated her enemies alone before sarcastically asking what exactly he managed to accomplish. Hearing that immediately leaves Gustar speechless. Yeah, Bro got cooked instantly. Soon after, Libel suggests that they should continue moving inside the base. Meanwhile, Sophia arrives directly in front of the giant demon monster who originally captured Cross. Sophia calmly declares that she will find Cross very soon because she has always been the one who finds him first. Then enormous demon monsters begin appearing before her one after another, only to be completely annihilated by Sophia effortlessly. While continuing forward, Sophia quietly tells Cross to wait for her and not to worry. At the same time, inside another area of the hideout, the thug boss continues holding Cross tightly by the arm, while commenting how interesting it is that Cross is apparently the first toy he has ever seen that repairs itself automatically. Cross himself is already heavily injured, but the boss only grins cruelly and tells him to entertain him even more. Sophia walks away while thinking that she has to protect Cross up because without him, she cannot do anything at all. And just like that, the scenes suddenly shift into the past where Cross is carrying heavy bundles of wood, while Claude tells him that he should really rest because he is not even used to traveling this much. But Cross casually brushes it off and thinks that moments like these are exactly when he can finally be useful to everyone. And meanwhile, Mary notices Sophia leaving and asks where she is going, only for Sophia to nervously explain that she is going to make medicine. But of course, Mary instantly starts teasing her and points out that Sophia has been making medicine in front of them for ages already. So why is she suddenly acting like this now? Is it because Cross is here? And yeah, Sophia immediately gets flustered and tells Mary to shut up already, but Mary keeps going and starts explaining that Cross is genuinely different because normal people only demand things from them. Favors, wishes, selfish stuff. But Cross only thinks about everyone else's well-being, and hearing that makes Sophia even more embarrassed as she begs Mary to just leave her alone already. But then out of nowhere, the mood completely switches when Sophia suddenly kills a giant snake like monster. And right after that, another bat like creature shows up because apparently one nightmare creature was not enough already. And while mixing ingredients together, Sophia quietly admits to herself that Cross is incredibly cool. And whenever he stays near her, her heart starts beating faster. Then, while continuing to make the medicine, she thinks about how peaceful it feels doing this and how she absolutely cannot let Cross find out about her feelings. But at the same time, Mary notices something strange and warns Sophia that she is doing that thing again and that it is nearby, so she needs to stop. While Mediel casually comments that whatever this is, it is definitely not pleasant to look at. And during all this, Sophia suddenly remembers her childhood where everyone mocked her, called her a monster, warned others not to come near her because she smelled bad, and even told her to leave the village because she was nothing but a witch from some unknown place. And honestly, how messed up is that? Then Sophia quietly sits there, thinking that she does not want Cross to hate her too. But suddenly Cross appears behind her and asks what she is doing, causing Sophia to panic and question why he is even there in the first place. While Cross curiously stares at the mixture and realizes she is making medicine. And instead of getting disgusted or weirded out, he gets completely fascinated and excited because apparently this is his first time seeing medicine being made up close. And he even asks if he can help too, which leaves Sophia completely stunned because, wait, seriously? That was not the reaction she expected at all. Then Cross explains that he used to hunt before so he can help by cutting apart the animals, while also asking what kind of medicine she is making. And Sophia explains that it is medicine for Cross himself, a potion that can harden skin like iron, so even daggers cannot pierce through it. Although deep inside, she suddenly wonders if she even wants him to rely on something like that. Then she casually tosses a frog into the mixture, while adding that she will put in an antidote too. And Cross immediately questions whether she is actually using the frog, only for Sophia to explain that she specifically needs its scale liver. And finally, the medicine is completed as Cross stares at the bottle in amazement and wonders if something this incredible could really be made from such random things. While Sophia passionately explains that roadside plants, poisonous materials, and even minerals can all become ingredients, and that simply changing the ratios slightly can completely alter the effect. But then she suddenly freezes because, wait, did she just ramble way too much? Is Cross getting annoyed now? But instead, Cross smiles and realizes that she genuinely loves making medicine, saying that he could tell how much fun she was having while making it. And honestly, he enjoyed watching it too. Then he asks her to teach him more about the things she loves, and hearing that makes Sophia blush before shyly agreeing that she would happily teach him. And then suddenly the scenes shift again as Sophia now stands silently in front of a grave, before appearing alone inside her study room, wondering why none of her medicines are working and why she still cannot bring Cross back to life. And slowly she begins questioning everything, wondering what the point of loving medicine this much even is when she cannot save the one person who truly matters to her. And after trying every method possible for 8 whole years without success, Sophia reaches the point where she cannot handle the pain anymore and even starts wondering if she should end her own life. But then the scenes violently snap back into the present, where Sophia suddenly rushes into a room and finds Cross sitting on the ground badly injured, instantly panicking as she realizes she needs to heal him immediately. But before she can do anything, the gangster boss suddenly appears behind her, and Cross urgently warns her to run away, only for Sophia to slowly turn toward the enemy, with pure rage burning in her eyes after realizing that this monster is the one who hurt Cross. And in the very next moment, her anger completely explodes as gigantic blazing fireballs begin filling the sky and crashing into the boss monster one after another until smoke covers everything. And for a second, Sophia actually thinks the enemy might be gone. But yeah, that would have been way too easy because suddenly a powerful punch bursts straight out of the smoke toward her, although Sophia barely manages to dodge it while the demonic boss grins, despite having one of his arms destroyed, and starts mocking her by calling her his next toy and even labeling her a witch. But Sophia immediately spins her medical staff and launches non-stop attacks at him as strike after strike flies toward the monster, only for him to dodge every single one while mocking the hero party and questioning if this pathetic level of strength is really all they have. And at that moment, Cross realizes the problem because Sophia is originally just a support guard, and without Cross and Mediel fighting beside her, she cannot fully use her abilities, so Cross immediately decides that he has to take Claude and Mediel's place and help her himself, and just as the monster launches another direct attack towards Sophia, Cross suddenly jumps in front of her and blocks the attack with his own arm, leaving Sophia completely shocked as Cross then looks toward her and tells her that now the two of them are going to finish this fight together. And now Cross tells Sophia that the two of them are going to defeat this monster together. But the moment he stands there holding his sword, blood suddenly starts bursting out from his hand, causing him to realize that he failed to properly block the monster's earlier attack. And Sophia immediately tells him that he seriously needs to rest for a while. But Cross casually brushes it off and insists that everything is fine and that the wound will heal soon anyway, and then right in front of her eyes, his arm instantly regenerates completely, leaving Sophia shocked as she praises him and admits that none of them could have ever done something like that, while Cross awkwardly gets embarrassed. But then suddenly his expression changes as he notices something and urgently asks Sophia to prepare her magic, because if she can get just 5 minutes, she will be able to destroy the demonic boss monster in a single hit. And Cross confidently tells her that he will buy her those 5 minutes no matter what, while Sophia quickly agrees that it will be enough time, and just like that, she starts preparing her magic, while Cross walks toward the monster and casually asks if it wants to play with him one more time. And honestly, saying that to a giant murderous demon is either incredibly brave or completely insane. Maybe both. While the monster grins and admits that Cross really is interesting enough to play with, then Cross charges forward with his sword and instantly dodges a punch before slashing directly into the monster's leg. But the boss immediately counters with a devastating punch that sends blood flying out of Cross's mouth as he crashes straight into a wall, and before he can even recover, the monster prepares another massive punch to finish him off. But Cross barely dodges at the last second, and the punch smashes directly into the wall behind him, although the force tears his entire arm off in the process. And Cross immediately realizes that at this rate, he cannot even stall for 3 minutes. But then he desperately focuses on regenerating as a tiny new arm slowly begins growing back before fully restoring itself, leaving even Cross shocked at how insanely fast his regeneration has become now. And he starts thinking that maybe constantly being torn apart into pieces somehow strengthened this ability, which is honestly a terrifying way to level up. But Cross still feels grateful because with this regeneration, his chances of winning are finally starting to look more like 50-50. And from there, the battle becomes completely brutal as the demonic boss keeps smashing Cross around the room, throwing him into ceilings, tearing off his arms again and again, while Cross continuously regenerates nonstop until the monster gets annoyed and compares him to an irritating cockroach that just refuses to die. And hearing that instantly makes Sophia furious as she angrily reacts to the insult toward her Cross. But Cross quickly tells her to stop focusing on him and focus only on her magic, because if becoming a cockroach is what it takes to protect his friends, then he is fully ready to become one. And despite standing there trying to fight, Cross suddenly gets hit by intense dizziness as he realizes he has lost far too much blood, and if this continues, his life will genuinely be in danger. But even then, he knows he still has to buy more time somehow, and while struggling, he suddenly remembers an old saying about a sword adapting itself to its master, and then he notices something unbelievable. He can actually feel his sword responding to him. and suddenly the blade becomes flexible as Cross instantly swings it upward, where it gets lodged into the ceiling before he jumps high into the air, while the demonic monster stares at him in confusion, and using the sword almost like a swinging rope, Cross spins himself over the monster's head, while the boss angrily repeats that Cross really is just like a cockroach crawling everywhere. But then the moment Cross yanks the sword free, massive chunks of the ceiling collapse directly onto the monster from above. And while Sophia watches all of this, she suddenly realizes something emotional because this chaotic, reckless fighting style, this is the real Cross. This is genuinely him. And for the first time, she fully believes that Cross has truly come back. And meanwhile, Cross loudly calls out to Sophia again as she finally completes her magic after exactly 5 minutes. And then out of nowhere, a gigantic magical black hole forms above the massive monster. While the creature looks up in complete shock before an enormous explosion completely obliterates it. And afterward, Cross slowly gets back up while coughing and starts thinking about how unbelievably powerful Sophia's magic really is. Because honestly, who could possibly survive something like that? Then Cross thanks Sophia because the two of them manage to win together, and the second the fight ends, Sophia immediately runs toward Cross and tightly hugs him while breaking down emotionally because she has wanted to see him again for so long. Then she admits that she waited for him for 10 whole years and truly believed they would meet again someday, even when she was slowly starting to give up hope and thinking it would never become possible, and she confesses how painful and difficult life has been without him, before completely bursting into tears and welcoming him back. And seeing her like this makes Cross emotional too, as he hugs her back and apologizes for making her suffer so much sadness. Then he admits that even though he always knew everyone cared deeply about him, part of him had selfishly wanted satisfaction for himself too. While Sophia continues crying loudly and thanking him for thinking about her at all, and then Cross quietly realizes that he has finally returned home. But right at that moment, Gustar suddenly arrives, shouting and asking if Cross is okay, before immediately reacting in shock at the absolutely ridiculous scene around him, because Cross's body parts are literally scattered everywhere across the area, causing Aura to panic as she wonders if those pieces actually belong to Cross, while Cross happily notices that everyone came there for him. But then Sophia suddenly gets angry because everyone interrupted her time with Cross, and immediately charges forward to attack them, only for something to suddenly drop onto her as Gustar and Libel quickly announce that this is their chance to capture her, and reveal that they brought sleeping medicine with them, while Cross desperately tells everyone to stop for a second, because he believes they can solve this peacefully if they just talk things out. But Gustar nervously points out that they will probably die before any conversation even starts. And even then, Cross still begs everyone to treat Sophia carefully and gently, while Aura tells Cross that he seriously needs to rest now. And in the end, Sophia lies there unconscious after everything that just happened. Now, Sophia is tied up with ropes while Cross nervously tells her that she suddenly passed out earlier, and honestly scared him for a second. But Sophia slowly wakes up and admits that she herself is shocked, because it has been years since she last slept that peacefully, only for Cross to casually reveal that she slept for just 30 minutes. And then he asks if he can properly introduce Aura and everyone else, because they are all his companions now. And hearing that makes Sophia suddenly remember that Aura is actually a demon. After which Cross explains that Aura's dream is to create a world where humans and demons stop fighting each other, and that he is cooperating with her to make that happen. But Sophia immediately believes Cross is being fooled and insists that the demons are only taking advantage of his kindness and good heart, while Cross calmly replies that this is not just Aura's dream anymore, it is his dream too. And hearing that causes Sophia to lower her head and quietly wonder if she is the only one left alone now. But Cross tells her that if she really insists so much, then fine. And right after that, Aura and the others walk into the room as Aura politely reintroduces herself and reveals that she is the current Demon King, which immediately shocks Sophia again, while Gustar notices that Sophia still does not look convinced at all, and Cross softly calls out her name. before Aura explains that Cross stopped the war purely through the strength of his heart, and that many people respect him deeply for it, so much that they have even given him the title of Rainbow Sage. But Sophia suddenly reacts emotionally and says that they are all acting like they fully understand Cross, even though they only know a tiny part of him, causing Gustar to get annoyed enough to suggest knocking her unconscious again because this whole situation is getting awkward fast. But Sophia immediately pushes back and insists that she knows Cross better than anyone because she recognized him instantly even without his hero title. And then Cross explains that he wants Sophia to help explain everything to Claude and the others, because if she is there too, they will be more willing to believe him. But Sophia thinks that sounds impossible because nobody will trust what she says, while Cross tries convincing her otherwise, only for Sophia to keep interrupting and insisting that it is completely impossible. Although deep down, she is really just upset because she cannot monopolize Cross anymore. And eventually, Sophia reluctantly agrees that she can at least help fulfill Cross's dream, which surprises him. But then Cross says something unexpected and asks Sophia to return to the human territory and persuade the human side instead. And hearing that instantly hurts Sophia as she sadly asks why he is trying to send her away from him, questioning if this is because she refused to become friends with Claude and the others, and she desperately asks him not to abandon her, causing Cross to panic and quickly deny that entirely before explaining that right now, she is the only person he can truly rely on for this mission, and hearing that finally calms Sophia enough for her to suggest that maybe they can still meet regularly once every week, which Cross happily agrees to, while Sophia confidently promises that she will resolve everything quickly, and even jokingly asks if she should burn anyone who resists. But Cross immediately reminds her that this whole thing needs to be solved peacefully. And just then, Aura casually announces that the discussion seems finished before revealing that they successfully captured the area's bandit boss and asks Sophia if she wants to speak with him. So Sophia heads over to the captured monster boss, who instantly recognizes her and Cross, and the monster admits that he never expected either of them to survive, while Sophia coldly explains that she only held herself back earlier because she did not want Cross involved, and assuming they came there to execute him, the monster tells them to just kill him already, but Cross immediately says that he has no intention of killing him at all, which completely shocks the defeated boss because after destroying entire human armies, he cannot believe anyone would spare him. But Cross explains that while he cannot forgive the monster's actions, he still refuses to kill him because he is aiming for a world without conflict. And honestly, hearing peaceful speeches from a guy whose limbs keep, getting ripped off somehow makes this even crazier. But the monster angrily calls Cross an idiot and claims that this softness will only lead to more deaths because he plans to keep killing people anyway. And instead of backing down, Cross calmly says that if that happens, then he will simply return and become the monster's toy until he finally gets tired of fighting. And after that, Cross and the others leave while informing the boss that he will be sent to prison and should properly reflect on his actions. But before they leave, the giant monster finally introduces himself as Bagar Heck and warns Cross to remember that name, because next time they meet, he fully intends to kill him with his own hands. And from there, the scenes shift again as Aura praises everyone for their hard work and reveals that transportation has already been arranged, so now they only need to wait, while Cross quietly wonders if he is becoming too soft these days, only for Gustar to bluntly tell him that it's way too late to worry about that now, while Aura actually thinks his kindness is wonderful. And Libel sarcastically agrees that Cross really is absurdly soft-hearted. Then Cross walks over to Sophia and apologizes because even though she was angry at him earlier, he still selfishly forced his own ideals onto her. But Sophia reassures him that everything is fine because this behavior is exactly what makes him Cross. And hearing that makes him smile before he thanks everyone else for helping him too. Although Aura immediately lowers her head and blames herself because everything that happened was caused by her carelessness. But hearing that instantly makes Sophia angry again as she loudly points out that it really was Aura's fault, forcing Cross to quickly calm her down before things escalate again. And meanwhile, Leibel notices Aura sitting quietly on the ground, while Aura sadly admits that she should have warned everyone earlier about just how dangerous the demon world really is. Because demons are not united at all, and enemies exist in every direction. And among all those threats, there are four specially terrifying individuals whom even the demon kings struggle to handle, warning everyone that if they ever encounter those monsters, they should escape immediately. Which naturally makes Cross wonder what kind of people could possibly scare even the demon kings themselves. But before Sophia can fully explain, the scenes suddenly shift once again to a man drinking alcohol, while one of his followers informs him that the troops are ready and they can leave any time now. And this man is revealed to be Ilias Golfart, one of the four heavenly kings, who confidently states that his father should watch him carefully now because he plans to fulfill his father's desires very soon. And moments later, an entire village gets completely crushed, as Ilias coldly claims that this is simply what happens to people who refuse to accept their teachings, after which a scientist approaches him and reports that the teachings of their machine faith have spread even further. But then an umbrella-holding girl suddenly appears and casually clarifies that she only destroyed those people because she personally disliked them, before angrily questioning why all those worthless beings were allowed to live peacefully while she herself could not. And this terrifying girl is revealed to be Alice, the devourer of cities. Then the scenes shift again to another mysterious girl standing quietly while a bat lands on her hand and informs her that another member named Red has committed suicide, causing the girl to sadly comment that the members of their house are disappearing one by one, and that perhaps their destiny has always been to end this way. And this girl is revealed to be Vernia Garden of the Crimson Blood Garden, after which the scenes shift once more into a room where another girl quietly states that the world is approaching an age of chaos and that now only destruction or rebirth remains ahead, before saying that at the center of all of this stands only one person, Cross himself, and this girl is revealed to be Prophet Araya Yui, who then uses her powers to look into the future before suddenly noticing an ominous star and laughing in excitement because things are becoming incredibly interesting. And then while staring directly toward Cross, she reveals something absolutely terrifying. The same man who might save the entire world is also the very person destined to destroy it.
Here I am, know it's been